Okay, there's a little glitch. Okay, no worries. We are back. So the idea is still very interesting. We are going to understand today how to make writer's effects a memorable experience, and how to allow our learners, and how to encourage our learners to approach writer's effects questions effectively. Okay, so welcome all of you. Welcome to this beautiful evening, and we have this webinar today on IGCSE language task. Writer's effects is basically a question that we generally find now as per the new syllabus in paper 1. Erstwhile, it was in paper 2 in the extended component, but now in IGCSE First Language English, we do not have the extended component. We only have the direct. I mean, we don't have the core component. Sorry, it's just extended component directly, and we have the writer's effect question in paper 1. So, what does this webinar offer to you today? What are the takeaways? So, we understand what is writer's effects basically. We will also understand how to introduce this topic, because that is something which comes off as a challenge for many teachers and even many students to understand. Okay, I mean, they know what they need to do, but they at times are clueless about how to introduce the topic and how to get going with the entire component of addressing the writer's effect questions. So we'll look into that in brief. Basic structure for a proper response. This is something again very important, where we need to understand how to structure our response, to structure our answers with the proper thesis statement, whether we should write in bullet points or not, whether we should write in a continuous paragraph or not. So, and we will totally understand, and we'll try to figure out what is the structure to write a writer's effect response and to score a high grade and high band mark as per the marking criteria. Okay. This is something very important which will be covered in this webinar today, how to annotate a sample question. So we'll take a look at one of the questions from the past paper, and we will see how to unpack the question, because that is something very important. If you do not know how to unwrap the question or unpack the key elements of the question, then the entire process of looking into the paragraph and to pick up those words and phrases for the response will be a little challenging. And finally, I will offer all of you a checklist for success, which you may take home with you. You may take a snapshot of it, and we'll be providing that to you as well. The checklist for success is something very important, which will help the learners and the teachers to understand these are the components, or these are the elements that should go into my writer's effect response in order to have the highest grade. Now, so let's begin with some kind of responses from the participants on board, both from our Facebook audience and the Zoom audience over here. So let's see if someone may just let me know.
Yes. I'm looking for answers on both the platforms.
Sure.
Giving teachers some time to key in their answers.
Sure. No problem.
Okay. First answer is from Neeru ma'am. She says the reaction generated from them. The second one is from Ms. Korean. Understand why the writer said what he did say.
Okay.
The third one is writer's attitudes and feelings. That's from Ms. Merchant. Ms. Deepa says, asks you to repeat the question. So the question, ma'am, is on the screen.
Yeah. What do you mean by writer's effects? Simple understanding.
On Facebook, the first answer is language and its effect. The next one is from Ms. Sultana. She says, how to create effect the writer through word choices.
Okay, good. How to create the effect through the word choices. So now, I'm sure there are lots of other responses pouring in.
Yes, lots of responses pouring in. Would you like to take more responses, Mr. Abhinandan?
A couple of them.
A couple of them. Okay, yeah. So I'll do justice to people from Facebook too. Yeah. Okay, from Ms. Kriti, the answer is it means the use of devices the writer uses to bring about the desired effect on the reader.
Hmm.
And from Zoom, writer's effects makes the readers understand the writer's emotions through linguistic analysis.
Okay, wow. I mean, I think we do have some amazing responses. So yeah, I think what we understand by this assembly of thoughts over here is writer's effects basically deals with impact that the writer is trying to create on the readers per se. I mean, simple terms, right? Definitely, we also know that there are two important elements that we must keep in mind when we are addressing writer's effects responses. Now, the idea of writer's effects has been used so heavily in so many aspects of life that no, it becomes a little challenging to unravel what might be writer's effects. So it's not difficult. Believe me, anything that you read is like can be accountable for writer's effects. It's a writer, and whatever effect that the writer is trying to produce, the tone of the writer and the mood and the atmosphere created after you read the writer's work is all encompassing idea behind writer's effects. Now, to understand this, as I keep on harping on the same idea, reading skills should be honed and reading skills should be developed big time. That is something very, very important. So, what are the basic areas that we can do as teachers to encourage our learners in our English classrooms to develop and discuss the uh, writer's ability to bring out the effect? So, first, skimming to understand the overview of the reading. Reading skills are a must to find out the scanning elements. That means in depth understanding and looking for detail. Is it explicit, like superficial meaning, directly told? You just skim through and you get to know, okay, what the writer is trying to say over here, what are the basic ideas, or do we delve deep into the fact? Do we delve deep into the entire passage or the entire text that the writer is trying to suggest to us? So there, in an attempt to do that, we discover the implicit meaning. And with implicit meaning, we definitely understand what is connotation. Explicit meaning is the literal meaning, the dictionary meaning, the denotation. Implicit meaning means when you read between the lines and try to unravel and try to figure out what is the inference out of it. What can you infer? What are the sensory and the emotive languages that the writer tries to connect or the writer tries to establish in the particular text? So, the be all and end all of a very successful response for English examination is to develop your reading skills. The more you read, the better. And read a wide range of literature, a wide range of stuff. Okay? And sophisticated language should be the norm of the day. Moving on. Now, I would request all the participants, I mean, if possible, just log on to collinsdictionary.com. So, when we train in a virtual learning, in a virtual sessions these days, and it's always important, even when we move to the physical setup in the school building, to encourage our learners to look up words and phrases in the dictionary. So this is one word that I've taken up, as you can see on my slide. So connotation. What does the word connotation mean? Connotation over here, it's given over here if you observe in the synonyms: implication, coloring, association, suggestion. So these are the words that we can reason out, or we can understand when we talk about the word connotation in our classrooms. So it is essential to encourage our learners to look up words in dictionary. So now what we are going to talk about is connotation at length. How are connotations important to identify writer's effects? Connotations help us build up the ideas inherent in the text. Connotations help us build up the association of a particular word that the writer is trying to suggest, the writer is trying to imply. So that is very important. Otherwise, denotation is the explicit meaning. So the entire game of writer's effects is to figure out and to explain to our learners how to understand the connotative, or what does this particular word connote. And then on the basis of that, we will pull out the threads of understanding to write the associated meaning and explain that in the context. So that will help us to understand a proper response for our writer's effect question. So we will definitely take up a couple of examples today to identify how this entire sense of connotation could be pitched against those particular examples, and we can move ahead and approach the questions. Yes, something that is extremely important is how, as I mentioned earlier, to introduce the topic. And of course, in today's times, we talk about differentiated learning, we talk about inclusive learning. So inclusive learning, and how do we include all the learners equally and effectively? That's again something very important. So to introduce a topic, I've given some suggestions over here. Divide the learners into groups, give each group a blurb from a book, ask them what they feel after reading the same. So this can be also set up in a physical arrangement of a classroom where we can give them a blurb of any book. There could be libraries set up in our classrooms as well, and we could ask them to pick up the book and read the blurb and share their thoughts, what they feel about the particular book after they have read, and what can they reflect on it. So when they're actually reflecting, actually they're analyzing on it, right? Write a tone word. So this is another activity which you could take up and introduce, and this has been actually done by many teachers all across. So write a tone word in about 20 to 25 chits of paper, call a learner and ask him or her to pick up a chit, and they have to enact the word or speak a sentence that would convey the tone. Now if the word is didactic, or if the word is condescending, or if the word is compassionate, so they have to enact something or speak out something which will reflect that particular tone. Now they cannot give out the tone word, then the game will be spoiled. Okay, so this is one activity which we can do, and this is also possible on our virtual schooling platforms. So we can give them, we can have breakout rooms, and we can ask them to decide on their words, and they can come up with some good sentences, and then we can enact it out. And then now the other learners have to identify what kind of tone it was that their friend had used in the particular sentence, and then how they felt, because the feeling is again important, because that will help them to understand the overall mood created and what is atmosphere generated over there. Of course, we could have some humor involved, as an incorrect enactment might evoke a different mood and create some different atmosphere. So maybe the word was not properly understood by the lead person, the main student who is actually enacting that thing. So it's possible that it will likely evoke a lot of humorous responses from the audience or the other learners, and they might not be able to get it, probably because the lead person might not be able to comprehend the meaning of the word. So then there comes our role as teachers to look up and help them with the dictionary and find out whether these will be able to be done over there in the classroom or not. These are a few that I have jotted down. In case you want some more ideas, the best response to start with, we can also have our writers who write their own descriptive writing pieces or narrative pieces for paper 2, I mean for the new syllabus, and take up some good piece of writing from the writers, from the class. Believe me, your learners are the best resources in the class. So they must have written some amazing descriptive piece. And as I mentioned in my earlier sessions, writer's effect and descriptive writing are the two sides of the same coin. So bring out some good sample pieces of the descriptive writing and pick up a paragraph and ask them to select some words and phrases. And that will really help. Without revealing the name of the student, of course, because we want to maintain anonymity, because we don't want to offend anybody, we don't want to put anyone into the spotlight. Let's say, oh, this is your word. So there are many techniques that we can take it up. You can take up a narrative piece as well and help the children find out the effect that's produced. So in this way, you are also encouraging the children to write, because when they see their own work being taken up in a class as an assignment or worksheet, that's a really profound joy that they experience, and they're encouraged. And that also encourages them to write further and read further, because the moment you tell them, oh, this has been written by one of our learners and one of our friends over here, each one is actually doubly interested to read, oh, who has written what? So that is exactly which increases the level of interest and excitement to read. And we are not only developing the reading skills, but also we are developing the writing skills, and also we are providing a lot of inclusion and encouragement to our learners. So that really works well. So without much ado, we come to our first example. Let's see. Take a simple paragraph over here. It says, Gwen slammed the packets down on the counter. Her fingers gripped the cardboard carton so hard that her fingernails left crescent-shaped indentations in the egg box. Thrusting her hand into the carrier bag, she pinched the corner of her packet and wrenched it towards her with fury. Now, you will observe that on screen, my slide, there are certain words which have been italicized and they have been highlighted in a color. If I may quickly request some responses from the participants today, what is the overall idea that you get out of this particular paragraph? And why do you think, what could be the impact produced or the effect produced by these words that I have highlighted? Let's see some responses.
Waiting for responses. Forceful, angry, or annoyed.
Forceful, angry, annoyed. Yeah, that's a good answer. So
anger.
Yes, anger.
Tactile imagery.
Tactile imagery. Okay. Fingers.
Frustration.
Okay.
And Shamla ma'am says mood of the protagonist.
Mood of the protagonist. Yeah, that's a very good observation. So the writer
violence, visualization, a lot of answers coming in. Yeah. Irritation.
Aggression, yes.
Frustration, exasperation. Oh wow, all sorts of adjectives.
Yeah.
Aggression.
Yes. So those tone words and mood words are basically adjectives.
Yes.
That's rightly identified.
Venting of frustration and so on and so forth. Yes.
Okay, great. So now the time comes again when I would like to request the participants to go on collinsdictionary.com and check out the meanings of these highlighted words and see what the dictionary tells you.
So to the teachers on Facebook, we've already shared with you the link. You can use the link to get to the Facebook, get to the Collins website.
Yeah.
Dictionary website, yes.
So collinsdictionary.com is your go-to resource where you will be able to generate the interest of the learners and help them understand what the particular word means. And there are so many other meanings. So as you observe in my next slide, I have just taken a small portion, a snippet of the entire page that talks about the meaning of the word gripped. So it's a verb. If you grip something, you take hold of it with your hand and continue to hold it firmly. A grip is also a noun. Grip is a firm and strong hold on something. And when you grip on something, the synonym again suggests you clasp, you hold tight, you rule, you control, you command. See, we have so many associated meanings. We have so many examples, synonyms for the word grip. Looking at the next word, thrust. So over here again we observe the word thrust suggests if you thrust something or someone somewhere, you push or move them there quickly with a lot of force. That means you're exerting, as mentioned by some of our participants today, a lot of exertion. You are using an outrage kind of thing, an aggression or force, coercion, trying to drive your way through. So these are some of the ideas that are generated the moment you come across the word thrust. And the moment you look up the words in dictionary, you get alternatives. How to build on the alternatives, we'll get an idea and a roadmap thereafter. So we say push, force, shove, and drive. Of course, thrust is also a noun, but then as second verb, a second meaning, thrust also means to push to shoulder, to lunge forward, and you're using a lot of effort. You're using force and coercion to some extent to ideate on the word thrust. Looking at our third word, pinch. So what does pinch suggest? If you pinch a part of someone's body, you take a piece of this skin between your thumb and the first finger and give it a short squeeze. So again, when you pinch, it offers an idea that this action is never done with love. This action is not done to cause somebody some kind of affection or cause somebody some kind of pleasure. So when you pinch, the idea that comes to our mind is there's a lot of pain associated with it. You twitch and you even flinch your face, and you actually let out a gasp because it presses against your skin and it really hurts you. It's painful, right? So pinch is again something which is done out of aggression. Okay. Looking at our fourth word that we have selected, wrench. So what does wrench mean? If you wrench something that is fixed in a particular position, you pull or twist it violently. Look at the adverb, violently. So that means a lot of violence is used over here. There's a lot of aggression used over here. There's a lot of tear and pull and push, tear and wear and tear is happening over here. So wrenching again suggests. So we have examples that provides a lot of clarity as well. He felt two men wrench the suitcase from his hand, as if forcefully, pulling and snatching away their action. He wrenched off his sneakers. They wrenched open the passenger doors and jumped into her car. So again, it talks about a lot of aggression, as if something unpleasant, something violent, and it's not something which is done with a lot of peace and in a very calm and composed mindset. So this helps when you talk about collinsdictionary.com and we take the learners up over there to look up words, simplest of words. At times, we have our learners talking about the fact, no ma'am, no miss, no sir, we know this word. But believe me, the moment you ask them to write the meanings of those words, because in IGCSE paper 1, we also have the word meanings. And writer's debate question comes from that particular passage. In the first half, you have 10 marks which are devoted to finding the meanings of words. So that really helps the learners to pick out the word meanings as well. So there's a dual thing. Again, we are trying to kill two birds with a single sling. We are not only developing our writer's effect techniques, how to form the inferential meaning, how to read between the lines to produce the effect, but also we are engaging and teaching our learners to find out the accurate word meanings as per the form and tense of this word identified and given in the question. That is something again very important to note. Okay, now let's see. Yes, do we have some responses for the previous slide and how the entire idea has been generated? Or I think we already shared, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, sorry. So how do we unpack this example 1 about Gwen? So what does Gwen talk about? She's thrusting the carrier bag, she's pinching it, she's using a lot of aggression. So of course, as most of you have answered so appropriately, so Gwen is an aggressive character. She's an aggressive lady. It shows that she's in a lot of frustration, as one of you mentioned. There's a lot of irritation in her demeanor right now, which she wants to ventilate and translate into her actions. She cannot perform a simple domestic task without being over forceful. So this is another implicit idea that the readers can actually glean out after reading that particular text. What is the third one? Gripped and pinched suggests she's holding onto the packet more tightly than necessary. So it's not necessary for her to grip the packet. So that means maybe she had had a bad day. She had been fired from her company, or maybe she's jilted in her love, or maybe she just couldn't accomplish a task, or maybe she missed out on some opportunity, or maybe she's disappointed in herself, or maybe there are people who disappointed her, couldn't live up to her expectation, and then she's trying to translate that entire aggression and entire feeling of hers through her gestures and actions. So this is exactly how we can bring out the meanings, the underlying meanings of the words. It seems as if there is some hidden wrath waiting for an outburst. So there's some kind of anger, there's some kind of fury that's waiting, that's bottled up, and she's just trying to just burst them out. Smashing things around or pinching, gripping hard. Actually, she doesn't want to do that, but then there's some cause which is creating this effect, right? So these binaries are very important to understand. So what is the cause that created this effect? So we could bring that out and unravel that as well. And definitely it creates an effect of threat or fear, as she's most likely to hurt somebody. If somebody is there in front of her, then that person might be the victim. That person might be the object of her fury, object of her wrath. Definitely she will not be speaking to that person in a polite tone, and definitely she will be reacting to the person. She'll be snapping at the person. She'll be barking at the person. So again, that will show that things have not been pretty good with this character. So definitely now it teaches us character analysis. So that's why I mentioned, if you give them, if you give, as teachers, if we train our learners in class, initially not to scare them with the whole length of a passage, but give them small chunks of sentences, give them even a snippet, a small paragraph, and then ask them to identify the words and phrases, and then they can identify what is the writer trying to portray, what is the effect that the writer is trying to create, what is the mood and atmosphere that has been produced thereafter. So these the ways, right from grade 8 onwards, if we try to teach our learners bit by bit how to approach writer's effect in this particular manner, I think by the time they come to grade 10, the first half of grade 10, they'll be doing a fabulous job and giving you amazing responses for writer's effects. Well, we all know the vegetable onion. It's a bulb. And we all know there are various layers of an onion. So when you peel out layer by layer, there's something new coming up. There's something interesting coming up with every peel, right? So this is exactly one ready to take in your class tomorrow itself, and a checklist of sorts which you can produce to your learners, and it's a handy dandy resource for you as well, which you can identify what needs to be done at each level. So when you're reading a text, first identify and ask yourself. So these are some mental checklists that we should go on making. Ask yourself, what is the literal and precise meaning of the word? What is the exact meaning of the word? The moment, and how will you identify that? Well, you have the answer today. collinsdictionary.com. Go over there and identify a host of meanings that you'll be able to figure out for yourself. And you don't need the teacher at that moment. The learners will automatically identify with examples over there, and they will be able to justify and understand what this particular word means and what is the context of this particular word. They'll be able to match it up. Does this help me to engage with the text? So what am I able to see, hear, touch? Okay. Is my screen paused?
Not really. We can see the phase of the onion.
Oh, I don't know. My screen has been paused.
You're not able to shift? Can you unshare and reshare? Perhaps that should help.
Is it visible now?
We can still see the same slide, the layers of the onion.
Yeah, the layers of the onion. Is it still there on screen?
Yeah. It is there.
So because I think I had lost.
Okay.
Had my screen shut down in between?
No.
Okay, great. So, yeah, sorry. I mean, I think there's some glitch going on. Apologies for that. So, how strong or weak the word is as layer 2 that we can identify. That's very interesting to note. We talk about a strong word and weak word, and I think this is one activity which we can do. We can list words and we can jot them down in a number line of sorts. We can have a word line and we can determine what is the word. Is it a strong word or a weak word? And that will really help us to judge. Does this tell me something about a person or place? So when we read a text, what does it identify? What does it help me to understand? Is it about a person? Because in the previous example, see, we talked about Gwen. So it tells me about a person. It tells me about what kind of a personality this character is. Does this suggest an emotion or attitude? So of course, I mean, the previous example we did learn about the emotion of the person. She had a very wrong attitude. Something might have gone totally wrong with her. Things didn't work out, and she's trying to ventilate her aggression so strongly over there. What other associations does the word carry with it? Now, this again will be identified if we look up, if we practice and develop the habit of looking up words in the dictionary, and we encourage our learners to do the same. What kind of word is it? Now, this is another layer that we need to find out. Is it archaic? Is it an old English? Is it a modern word? Is it a formal register? Is it an informal word used? Is it a technical term? Is it a jargonized vocabulary? Or is it an informal, colloquial, or a slang word that has been used? So all these elements will be able to help us to understand the context in which the language has been used. And eventually we can identify what is the effect that the writer is trying to produce through that expression or through that use of language or words. How does the word sound? Does it contribute to a sound pattern? I mean, is there some kind of onomatopoeia laced over there? Does it ring in our ears, or does it produce some kind of auditory imagery, or does it have any kind of alliteration or assonance or consonance to it? So these are some of the elements that we would. So now we know these are the things that we need to teach in our class. Otherwise, the learners will not be able to understand. And then we go ahead giving this particular checklist and table to the learners, which will help them to unravel and open up the layers bit by bit. Okay. Now we have a second example. I have not highlighted any words over here, so I've made it a little challenging in this case. So let's see what responses our participants have to offer today over this particular text. I hate you. The girl screamed like a banshee, her voice grating and harsh. I'm never coming back. Never. Her words were accompanied by a horrifying crash as the glass panes in the window shattered one by one until they lay in a jagged heap, just like his shattered dreams. Now let's understand from our participants what is the effect, or what do we understand as a superficial reading, and then on a deeper reading, what do we understand out of this?
Okay, we are getting answers. One, delusion.
What is that? Come again.
Delusion.
Delusion. Okay.
Yes.
Why so? Why delusion?
So, Sonali ma'am, if you could say why you think it is delusion. The second answer is disappointment. Third, hysteria. It's
Okay,
a highly
hysteria.
charged scene, is what Ms. Preeti says.
Okay.
Then Ms. Anuradha says, wow, it's just going. So there are a lot of answers: irritation, heartbreaking, a girl's broken heart, and utter disappointment.
Okay.
It creates horrific atmosphere. Now, quickly, let me go to Facebook. I think I should do justice to our teachers on Facebook too. Ms. Preeti Roy Chaudhary says dramatic and emotional.
Yeah.
Okay, on Facebook, there are a lot of answers floating. I don't think it can even contain. So they say disappointment, outburst, rejection, heartbroken. So
Yeah. So, in fact, the heartbroken and jilted element over there could be talked about the last line. His shattered dreams. Yeah, shattered dream. The word shattered talks a lot about, and there's a repetition of the word shattered. Yes. So see, again, close reading is important. Close observation is important. And our question asks us that our choices of words and phrases should include imagery. Right? So what are the examples of imagery? What do we mean by that? What are some examples of imagery? What are we actually looking for in our learners?
Okay, I'm looking for answers. Okay, disappointment suggested by shattered dreams. Scream like a banshee.
Mm-hmm.
Horrifying crash, crash of glass panes, shattering of glass compared with dreams,
Okay.
like a banshee is a simile.
Simile, very good.
Uh, I'll mention ma'am's name. She's Miss Rama Vangari.
Okay.
Uh, then grating is an example, if I think that's what she's. Uh,
Yes, yes.
Deepa Das ma'am says the five senses and words that cater to it. Example, grating.
Oh, yeah, very good. So, yeah, now,
The window
uh,
shattered, emotion shattered, everything happened at the same time.
okay, okay,
Terror stricken image using sight and sound.
yes. Visual imagery, auditory
Auditory.
imagery.
Coming to auditory imagery is crash, visual imagery, visual shattered, jagged heap. That's from Facebook.
Yeah, excellent. Good responses.
You want me to keep reading?
No,
You
that's
ask
fine.
me to stop and I'll stop
Oh,
because
yeah,
it's
thank you, thank you. Yeah,
overwhelming. Oh, yeah.
those are some excellent responses. Yes, a very disturbing atmosphere, aggression-filled atmosphere. That was nice one. The lot of lovely responses over there. But now, what does our IGCSE paper? What does our question ask us? How many examples are we supposed to find out from each paragraph? What is the requirement? We have got multiple responses. Appreciated.
They say 3 plus 3.
Three, absolutely correct. So there are three words and phrases that we are, our learners rather, are supposed to be picking up from each paragraph. And we get two such paragraphs identified in the question, right? In the question paper. There will be more than three responses. There will be more than three words or phrases in the passage. But we have to also remember there's another key word that the question tells us. Choose three powerful words or phrases. The adjective powerful has a lot of significance over here. There will be other words, even in our marking scheme, in our answer key, we know that the examiners do put up a lot of other responses more than just beyond three or four, as it was the requirement of the question paper earlier and as it is now. But we are supposed to be choosing any three words or phrases and they're writing our response on the basis of that. So let's see how we can basically choose from here and assemble our answer in a beautiful manner. This is what I have attempted over here, and uh, these are some examiner comments on this particular response below. So by using the simile, like a banshee, the writer compares the girl's voice to something cacophonic. So cacophonic is something which is unpleasant. It's opposite of euphony, right? Which is very unpleasant to hear because this passage, this text definitely deals over here with a lot of visual and auditory imagery, predominantly auditory imagery. So we discussed those issues at the onset and presents her as quite frightening. So definitely the character, when you see, she screams and the character is screaming like a banshee, her voice grating and harsh. Obviously, it creates some kind of a threat. It creates some kind of danger to the situation. And I can attribute these qualities to the girl's character, right? So that is important. And on that note, this would also be a very good idea to take this thing up in the classroom as an exercise for model reading. Because I believe in one idea that it all depends on how you read. If you read correctly with the right pauses, I think you will comprehend well. And that is a secret tip for good comprehension skills. So as teachers, what I basically do is I always model in my class. Now, as someone mentioned, I remember Miss Preeti Roy Chaudhary mentioned, it's about how the entire atmosphere or how the entire thing has been dramatized. So as teachers, we can also dramatize the entire thing. And that will really help us connect or send the same kind of vibes or same kind of effect can be produced in our classroom setting. Okay, so if I say, I hate you, the girl screamed like a banshee. So, automatically that effect is produced and our learners will be all caught off guard momentarily. But then that is exactly what writer's effect is all about. It has to create that impact. It has to establish that atmosphere. And you see how interesting it becomes thereafter. So the writer describes the girl's voice as grating, suggesting it is unpleasant, almost having an abrasive effect. So see, I'm producing an effect over there. I'm giving out the literal meaning, grating, unpleasant, suggested word and idea, and the overall impact created. The breaking of the glass is unnecessary but symbolic, as it shows the deliberate move by the writer to create a negative impression of the girl. So I'm playing with the character as well. I'm trying to suggest what the writer is, trying to bring out, or making an attempt to bring out the impact or about the character or the overall atmosphere. With shattered dreams, the writer seems to express sympathy for the man, invoking pity for him. So this is a reasonably very good answer. If you want to frame our response, to structure our response with a lot of, look at the transition of sentences. I'm not beginning the sentence in the same monotonous manner the writer suggests, nor am I writing this entire response in bullet points. They are not supposed to be doing that. Okay, it should be in a continuous paragraph. The words that I am picking up from the text should be highlighted, and before this, now this is a response from one particular paragraph. Of course, this is not a complete response. You can write more on this because our word limit is 200 to 300 words. So we need to do justice to that as well. But one important advice is, before you write this response, we must always train our learners and our students to write an overarching statement before this particular paragraph. Because as it says, it's overarching statement and not underarching statement. So it wouldn't be a very good idea, though many people might suggest that, but I do not think it would be a good idea to write a thesis statement at the end of writing everything. So the overarching statement should initially go at the beginning. That's why you must have always found in your marking scheme the overview, the overall effects. They always write at the beginning, and then they give out those words, the tentative words that you can actually pick out from the particular paragraph. So that makes sense. The overarching statement should predominantly encompass the sentence length. It should talk about the writer's tone. It should talk about the purpose and the genre that the writer is trying to suggest over there. Ideally, the overarching statement or the thesis statement should be constructed in one or two, at the most, one or two complex sentences. That's it. That's sufficing. That sets the pace, and that becomes a bedrock for our further analysis, because it's style analysis. So it becomes easy for the learners under exam conditions to find a roadmap to what they're trying to express and what they're trying to write. So these are the examiner comments over here. Detailed explanation showing writer's attitude. So we understand the writer's attitude is very clear over here. The word meanings and associations shown are very clear. The effect produced is absolutely clear. So I'm using proper adjectives, the tone and the mood words to bring out the effect over here. So this is a model response. All right, there can be definitely better responses than this, and you can actually frame out and train in a much better manner. This is one handout. This is one slide that you might find it very useful, and I wanted to share this with all of you. At times, we often ask, what could be the variety of structures that we use in terms of framing our sentences and even a paragraphs. So this EARS paragraph, EARS, will definitely help us to understand how to frame our sentences. And also I've put up some keywords and powerful keywords that you may take a cue of and then start writing. So for example, evidence. The most important thing is finding out the keywords, the quotation, so and so. The character is being described as being, and I use the keywords. So instead of putting, because many learners have a habit of writing the keywords as standalone elements, fragmented ideas, and they are just loosely held. They are not connected in a succinct manner. They are not connected coherently. So that is what is more important to teach our learners, that it should be blended in. It should be seamlessly blending in. Then we talk about the analysis. Now, you can use a lot of sentence openings and sentence starters with respect to this particular slide. I mean, it's a ready reference resource for you. This implies that, this suggests that the writer has done this to demonstrate. From this, I can infer that the writer is showing this phrase so and so indicates the word, then inverted quotes, put up the word, gives the impression that. So this is really helpful. You can use the words like this: highlights, relates, hints, introduces, and if you want to use some powerful keywords, this phrase foretells, this phrase foreshadows or manifests. I believe, personally, I think my response to this is, so talk about the reader's response, because that will talk about the mood created, and you can make a speculation, extra comments about the quotations, or you can give your opinions. Alternatively, so this is exactly what we talk about, the associated meaning. You you branch out the thread of ideas and talk about the associated meaning over there. So alternatively, this could suggest that. On the other hand, this could signify, or the writer uses this phrase to bring out the essence of the matter, or talk about this particular element, and so and so. Additionally, this suggests that. So see, you can use fronted adverbials and a lot of other structural elements to frame your responses. Okay, do we have any questions so far?
Yes, we've got two questions.
Yes.
The first question is from Ms. Neha on Zoom. She asks, can they write using personal pronoun I?
They can. I don't see why they cannot write.
Okay. And the second question is, should the words chosen be a part of the explanation, or should it be indicated in quotes at the beginning and then commented upon?
Not necessary to indicate them in the beginning, but the word should be put in quotes, because that gives a clear understanding for the examiner.
Okay.
But there is no hard and fast rule. It's not a mandate to put those words in the beginning of the sentence or at the beginning of every sentence. No. That's what I mentioned. Okay. Blend in your phrases seamlessly.
Okay. Again, I think this relates to the first question that I had asked, but maybe you could choose to rather take it or not. Sonia ma'am asks, should personal pronouns be used?
But see, as I mentioned, I mean, there is no harm in using personal pronouns, because I am writing my writer's effect. So what effect is produced on me? So I would definitely talk about that.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, I think that's okay. This is another question. Words should be in single quotes or double quotes?
Single quotes are fine.
Okay.
Double quotes basically we use for directed speech. The direct speech narration. Okay. Now this is a process.
Okay, there is one last question if you'd like to take.
Yeah, sure.
With respect to the previous slide that you just changed. It's from Sophie ma'am. The writer's effect question says, your choices should include images.
Yes.
Please comment on identifying and explaining images.
Yeah, so your choices should include not images, but I should correct that your choices should include imagery.
Oh, imagery. Right? Okay.
Yes.
She's mentioned images. Okay.
Yeah. So the question clearly says your choices should include imagery. So imagery, you have examples like similes, metaphors, personification, hyperbole, exaggeration. So of course, these are alliteration, onomatopoeia. These are the examples of imagery. So we have to train our learners to identify the examples of imagery suitably from the text, which does justice to the question asked. That is important.
Okay.
I hope
yeah, there are a lot of questions. I mean, would you like to take more questions, or would you want to take them after the session?
We can take a couple of questions. No
problem. Couple of questions? Okay. Yeah. So Ms. Jyoti Badampudi says, asks you to clarify regarding bullet points. Cambridge accepts both formats, right? She's asking you this question.
No. The question clearly says we cannot write in bullet points. We cannot write in note form. It has to be in continuous paragraph. We must not train our learners to write in bullet points.
Okay, I think Jyoti ma'am, that should answer yours and most other teachers' questions.
It should be a continuous paragraph. They cannot pick up the words or phrases in standalone, separate paragraphs and write. because that will not, I don't know. I mean, that is not allowed.
Okay. And the last question before we move on is any specific strategies that you would suggest for students with learning difficulties?
Oh, yes, I'm coming up in the next slides. That should answer your.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So this is a process that slow learners or learners with learning difficulties or special learners, of course, we should say that, it will be really helpful for them. And of course, for all our cohorts uh, across the length and breadth of the country and elsewhere. So the process is very important. The first stage is read the passage or the extract very carefully. Get a sense of time, place, genre, tone, and atmosphere. After that, it is a good idea to to encourage our learners to practice underlining the key words of the question. So that's what I mentioned in the beginning. Annotate the question. It's very, very important. Go back to the passage after that and highlight the relevant matter, what you want to discuss in the light of those underlying keywords and questions in the question. Identify the words or phrases which include imagery. So this was a question that was asked a couple of minutes ago. So that's important to identify just the words or phrases. Now, in this context, I would like to say something. Often we find our learners picking up an entire chunk of the sentence, or rather, even the full sentence. Now, please, I think we should discourage that. That's not appropriate. The question clearly asks, identify or choose words or phrases, not full chunk of the sentence. Because at times what happens in that process is they pick up the entire chunk of the sentence, is a larger portion of the sentence, and wherein more than two or more than one word or phrase are embedded, are resting over there. So in that way, the writers are limiting, the learners are limiting their scope of the analysis. So encourage them to pick up short words and phrases, and they can go about. So as I saw in the earlier slides, how the words have been picked up. Thrust, gripped, pinched, or like a banshee. Just like a banshee would suffice. Nothing more than that. She screamed like a banshee, not required. Even the word screamed is not required. The moment I pick up the phrase like a banshee, I'm using it. This is an example of simile, and the writer tries to compare the voice of the girl to that of a banshee, the way she screams. So I'm bringing in the word scream over there in my response and suggesting, and I'm giving the explanation over there that this is it's cacophonic. This is not a very good, pleasant to hear, right? So this is what I am trying to suggest, that let's follow this pattern over here. Transfer to a plan. Of course, when we are teaching and learning in the classroom setup, let's develop the habit of making a rough plan, a rough sketch. So when we do it in the regular learning sessions, automatically under exam conditions, of course, please don't make a plan under exam conditions, but the mental plan, a mental mind map should be going on. So the learners know, because they've been practiced and they've been given the practice so often in class, that they know, like tic-tac-toe, they know exactly how to transfer the plan. Explain the effect created. This is again where most of our learners really mess up like anything. They write the words, they write the meaning, they also to a certain extent are able and are quite successful to bring out the meaning, the associated idea, even the inference, but they fail to produce the effect. And that is exactly what our question is asking. Use devices like repetition, contrast, exclamation marks, sentence lengths, sound effects. So these will overall bring in some kind of justified element to our response. Begin your response with an overarching statement, as I mentioned earlier. Use a wide range of sentence starters, connectives, discourse markers. I just discussed that in the previous slide over here. A wide range of discourse markers, connectives, sentence starters. This will really help. And write in a continuous paragraph. It's a must. We cannot write in bullet points. We cannot pick up 3 words or phrases and put them in 3 separate paragraphs. No, that should not be entertained. Now, this is a quick activity for all of us. Let's see. It's time to engage quickly each other. This is a worksheet that you can also take to our learners and introduce them. This will be very effective for the special learners and learners with some difficulty. The class classroom activities. So match the underlined words with the ideas they create. I've done one for you. Let's see if you can have responses.
Yes, already we are getting a lot of responses. The first
Okay.
is 1-3.
The first one is what?
1-3.
Okay. Attractive, appealing, and precious. Yeah, great. That's
Two
correct.
six.
2-6. Uh, a riot. So that's a metaphor. Uh, Dangerous, out of control, aggressive. Yeah, absolutely. That's correct. The
Uh,
third one,
3-5.
3-5. Yes, like a snail. Simile. Lazy, exhausted, drained. Absolutely correct. The fourth one,
Fourth one. We're just waiting. 4-1. Fourth
4-1.
one.
Absolutely correct. Like a ship at full mast. It's like powerful, dominant. Yeah, that's simile. And the fifth one, like a kitten.
5-2.
2. The second one is already answered.
5-4.
Yeah, 5-4. Correct. Like a kitten and the baby. So we're trying to suggest an idea, small, vulnerable, but content, satisfied, at peace. And the sixth one is already done. A rose. That's a metaphor. She is a rose amongst thorns. So distinctive, perfumed, protected. So see how these exercises are quick activities in the class. You could take up a discussion, you could take up interaction, you could take up worksheets and assignments in the classroom with similar kind of practice, and you can also maintain the rigor thereafter. And all the learners will participate, and they will learn immediately how to pick up the ideas, how to connect the ideas for the words or phrases that they pick up. This is something again interesting, how to look for multiple effects. So one word or phrase can have multiple effects, right? It can create a visual picture, it can stimulate your senses, it can create an atmosphere, it can create a specific meaning, it can create a specific level or intensity or the strength of the word, and it can also stimulate emotions. So one word or phrase can have multiple elements. So let's see how we can take this idea further with one quick exercise. This is the third example for our session today, and the last example hopefully. Robert burst through the door, a rhinoceros of a man. Now see, one word, as I mentioned earlier, it can have multiple effects. So the word rhinoceros in this context can suggest the man is aggressive. It can suggest, oh, he's a character who should be feared, who should be afraid of. People should be afraid of this man, this character. He's large and grey. He's himself quite dauntless. He's overwhelming. Okay, he has an intimidating personality. He's solid and thick-skinned, and that suggests that okay, whatever you say, it's impenetrable. This man is impenetrable. I mean, you say whatever to him, he doesn't care. It doesn't matter to him. And of course, it also suggests about his personality trait. It talks about how rough textured he might be. A character, okay, shades of character, the layers of character can also be unraveled. So, as I mentioned earlier, don't make it too daunting and don't make it too intimidating for the learners in the initial stage. Or writer's effect. Okay, we have to choose this, we have to choose that, we have to write like this. Go step by step. This really helps. Pick up sentences, and that really will really encourage your learners to be motivated, to find interest in answering and even approaching writer's effect questions thereafter, as you up the level of, or you elevate the level of challenge with every stage. This is the line, the word line that I was mentioning. We can talk about this as an intensity of words. Now I've taken up some words which mean hate. All these words that you see on screen in this particular orange box over here, they all suggest hatred. They all suggest a negative emotion, in one form or the other, like dislike, abhor, disfavor, odium, animosity, pique, grudge, acrimony, repugnance, loathing, abomination, antipathy, detest, nauseate, antagonize, disgust, despise, repulse, revolt. There could be many more words added, nevertheless. But now, this is one activity which we could take up in class with our learners. Again, over here, to successfully do this activity, we would want to take them through an entire session on this. We would ask them, look up these words on collinsdictionary.com and see what are the connotations that the dictionary suggests to you. Tell me which word is a strong word, which word is a weak word, and then jot it down. Are there some words that might be neutral? They might both mean somewhere in between middle and strong. I mean, strong and weak. Do they have the similar kind of connotation? Like words such as abomination. It's a very strong word. It suggests outrageously something which is horrible, like abominable. And you have the word animosity. Animosity suggests a strong feeling of dislike. There's some hostility associated with, like antipathy, hostile aggression, hostile hate, disgust, or disfavor associated with that. So the moment they pick up these words, and you can do this activity with any sort of words. We can use positive word like love. We can use affection, or you can use words like meandered. You can use verbs as well. You can use abstract nouns and adjectives. So see, these are the words that they will eventually be trained to pick up from the exam paper. And this really works. So these are some of the strategies that you could use to develop the skill of writer's effect response. And I almost come to the end of my session today. This is a ready-made resource that you would really find it interesting. A list of tone and mood words. A single click on any one of these documents can lead you to a list of tone and mood words, okay, which you can use. You will find some positive tone words, you'll find some negative tone words, you'll find some neutral tone words, and an entire repository, a bank of resources will open up with all these PDF files. And there are some worksheets also over here, which you could take back to your learners and give them, and you can tweak it as per your own requirements as you're teaching. So this will be shared with you, don't worry. And there's a final one, checklist of possibilities that I mentioned. Checklist is something very important. What is the effect created by the writer? An experience has been described probably, an atmosphere has been created, a statement of fact has been made, an opinion or emotion has been conveyed, a reaction has been provoked. So find out, are these elements there? As learners, we should also be aware of this particular fact. Then what is the effect created by that? Because this is something very important. Eventually in my response, I'm supposed to be writing what is the effect created by the writer. Okay. What is the impression made on the reader's minds? So they can visualize the scene that has been described. They can hear the sounds that have been mentioned. They can almost smell or taste something that was described. They can almost physically or emotionally feel something being described. So in the light of this discussion, probably I would like to revisit that question. Some of you asked if they would appreciate writing in first person using personal pronouns. Ideally, you can use third person. The writer uses it. The writer said that's more advisable. But I don't find any harm if we use personal pronouns. But then giving it a second thought, you could actually use third person. That will really make it better. And the final slide over here under checklist, what has caused this effect on the reader? So definitely, as I talked about, every effect always has a cause. So to find out that cause is again very important. Is there some specific meaning of a word that I want to find out as a reader? What are the word associations created? What is the rhythm and pace of words and the sentence structures? The positioning of the words, phrases, and sentence. So these elements will probably help me to even curate my overarching statement. So as a reader, what is the impact produced? What is the impact created on me? I would like to find that out. So these are the three slides, checklist of possibilities that we would like to consider, and they're very important for writer's effect response. A quick activity if we do have time, otherwise you can take it up as a response. I had already done this earlier in my earlier webinars. This is one worksheet that you can give it to your learners and help them identify and underline the words or phrases, and then this is a worksheet where you can fill in. Like what are the tone words, what are the context clues that help them identify, and what is the mood created. So this again helps them to build up the gradual understanding of writer's effect responses in a simplified version. Not too heavy, not too intimidating, but it really helps learners, like it addresses differentiated learning as well. So learners across the strengths and abilities can actually approach this and they can work out. Okay, this is a really important slide. I would really like all of you to take note of this. I've taken this from the June 2018 paper. I've just taken the question and I've annotated this, keeping in mind the earlier question and the present requirements as per the new syllabus of IGCSE. So reread the description. It is always important to teach our learners to pick up the words and phrases on the basis of what has been asked in the question. Otherwise, what will happen? They'll end up picking up other words and phrases which are not relevant. And that is what happens often. It often happens. Description, it tells me that I should focus on descriptive language, right? And I've already conducted a webinar on descriptive language, so you know now what descriptions and how to identify descriptive language. When I'm talking about the words which are highlighted in dark brown, the first experience of the canteen and the visit to the accounts department. Now this tells me that the subject for each part of the question. Make sure you select relevant examples based on these subjects from the identified paragraphs. Till November 2019, there were 4 powerful words and phrases that the writers had to choose, the learners had to choose, but now it's 3 powerful words and phrases. Till that examination, it was 10 marks for this question, but now we have 15 marks for this question. Powerful. I have identified this word. This tells you, that you should select words or phrases that help to create the impression of the topic. You should explain how they create this impression. Not just any other word or phrase, but the relevant, powerful words or phrases from each paragraph. And if you see the next part of the question, explain how each word or phrase is used effectively in the context. That is something very important. It shouldn't be out of the context. Pick up the words or phrases that are relevant to the context. Otherwise, it will not make sense. Okay, that's the last slide. I think this most of you are aware of. This is a marking criteria as per the 2020 examination onward for first language English. As I mentioned just now, we have 15 marks for the question and the description for each band is given over here. And we would definitely aim at improving our learners and training our learners to get the level 5 between 13 to 15. So what are the requirements? We have to ensure that there is a wide-ranging discussion of judiciously selected language with some high-quality comments that add meaning and associations to words or phrases in both parts of the texts and demonstrate the writer's reasons for using them. It tackles imagery with some precision and imagination. There is clear evidence that the candidate understands how language works. And how will the candidate understand how language works? That comes solely out of vigorous reading. So the more you read, the more you are able to understand and use a wide range of structures to teach. I shared a lot of strategies today. So use these, employ these strategies, and you will see the results. You will see the benefits that you see, that you will observe in the forthcoming assessments in your learners. They will write well. They will be able to select the ideas well. Use this particular technique, annotation. Annotation is important. And also use this particular activity. So these are some quick fix worksheets that you can take it up with learners in the classroom, and it will help them to identify, like all the children can participate, and how to write the response thereafter will be quite easy and clear, and teach them how to annotate the question. The moment they are able to annotate the question, automatically, this entire image is so clear in front of their eyes. Under exam conditions, they'll be able to revisit. Okay, this is exactly where I am supposed to be finding out, and the colors, the scheme of colors will help them to do that effectively. So we are not looking at any other band descriptors over here, because we want our learners to score 15 out of 15. That's possible. You can actually score full marks in writer's effect response. Many of you might ask a question. I know I had a question, somebody asked me, how do we structure that otherwise? So we write the overarching statement for question 2A. It's very important to teach our learners how to number the questions as well. It's 2A and 2B. So 2A should be written over there in the answer script, and they write the overarching statement, make a new paragraph. In a continuous paragraph, write the writer's effect response for those 3 words or phrases from that paragraph identified in 2A. Then leave a line, mention 2B, write the overarching statement again for the paragraph identified in question 2B, and then write in a continuous paragraph the writer's effect response for the 3 words and phrases identified in paragraph B, or the second paragraph identified in question 2B. So this is the overall structure that you could use. The word limit is 200 to 300 words, 150 words at the most, 120 to 150 words at the most for each paragraph should suffice, and I think that would help. Great. And sort of definitely we talked about how to address all these queries, and not just what to be taught, but how to teach as well. That's the art of metacognition. And this is the final, as I mentioned, you can click on Amazon and you can find the Collins dictionary, and you will find them. Use it for your learners, ask them to purchase, but then do not forget to actually take them online on collinsdictionary.com. That's extremely helpful. Believe me, I am working with my learners. It's showing amazing results. Sorry. You can give feedback to your learners in various ways. Like you can have peer review, as I mentioned, take up a sample work of your learners without mentioning the name, and then you can ask them to make a writer's effect response out of that, or just help them review each other's works. So peer assessment skills will also be taught in that manner. You could also give feedback in the form of even better, if it could actually be better if you add these points. Plus minus interesting also helps, and what went well. Great. So on that note, I end my session. Thank you. I hope it was useful.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Abhinandan. Due to the paucity of time, I think we can just take 1 or 2 questions.
Sure.
Would you be okay with that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So there is one question that has been repeated on Facebook by Ms. Shyamala Mangalampalli. Her question is, can the students lift the key expressions from the extract in order to explain in detail when the question is asked to use their own words?
Wait, okay, 1 second. Key expression, no. They will just pick up the words or phrases. They are not supposed to lift the entire sentences to explain that for writer's effect response. They cannot. They have to use their own words. So yes, Ms. Shamla, you are right. They cannot lift the entire words of, they cannot lift the entire sentence. They just have to pick up those words or phrases and put them in inverted quotes to underpin their analysis, to support their justification. I hope I've answered that.
Yeah, I think she feels you've answered that. I'm waiting for a response, but due to the time lag in Facebook, I think we'll get it soon. The last question for this evening is from Ms. Neha on Zoom. If students pick up a striking adjective and choose to comment on it, will that be considered?
Of course, yes, provided that striking adjective is contextually relevant to what has been asked in the question. So as I just showed you in the annotation, so each question, see over here, as I mentioned in the annotation, this part, Andrew's first experience of the canteen. So if the striking adjective talks about Andrew's experience in the canteen, of course, why not? That's perfectly all right.
Okay. So I think with that, we come an end to this session. I'm really sorry. There are a lot of suggestions and also a lot of answers on Facebook. So to all the teachers who are asking us questions both on Facebook and on Zoom, we sincerely apologize. We won't be able to take many questions because of the paucity of time. But I request all the teachers to revisit this Facebook link and watch it again to understand the webinar. And to Mr. Abhinandan, heartfelt thanks from all of us here, both from Collins and also to all the teachers, from all the teachers who've attended this webinar. You should read the comments to understand how grateful the teachers are,
Oh,
and
thank you.
all of us
They
are
can
grateful for that.
they can feel free to write to me for any
Wonderful.
kind of queries and doubts. You're most welcome to write to me. No problem. I'll answer them.
So, with that, thank you so much to all the teachers and also Mr. Abhinandan. And
Thank you
wish you
so much.
all a happy evening and wish you
Yes.
all a safe week ahead. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and wish you all a very happy Diwali as well.
Yes, advanced Diwali wishes. About a fortnight advanced Diwali wishes.
Absolutely.
Thank you.